Welcome on in to Drinks with Binks. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks, and I'm so thrilled to be joined by sports broadcaster, fellow Canadian, Adnan Virk. You got the Corey Crawford Canadian jersey on. You knew how to play to your audience. Thank you for being here.
Of course, Julie. My pleasure. It's great to reunite. Literally, as I'm leaving the house in North Jersey in ho-ho, because my wife goes, "What are you wearing?" Seriously. I go, Julie's Canadian. She's going to love it. Although I am not a Corey Crawford guy, but I did the World Cup coverage at ESPN, that's right, 2016, with our guys Brett Hull and Chris Chelios.
Yes, yeah.
And afterwards, Brian Lynch was like, "Oh, we got a jersey for you." And I don't know, I'm sure you've met both those guys in your travels. Yeah. So Holly, great guy. And of course, he was born in Canada, and his dad's Canadian, so he's okay with this, even though he played for Team America. But I get that, Americans are nicer to him, whatever. Yeah. I think he would have played for Canada, but America was a better opportunity for him. So it's fine. Right. He has no issues with us. Chelios is very vigilantly anti-Canadian.
Hates Canada.
Correct. Like most of the time when you and I, anywhere we are in life, people go, "Oh, you're Canadian," it immediately is met with an endearing smile, a nod, like, "Oh, I love Canadians," or "Oh, Phil Hartman's great, Mike Myers, Jim Carrey, whatever." But with Chelios, the first time they go, "Adnan's Canadian," he was like, "Oh, yeah?" And I lie. I go, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "No, I don't. I really don't like Canadians." And I was like, okay. And I thought,
all right, we're going on TV together now.
Because then he's like 25 years of my life. I've had to face Canadians, and in my head, I'm like, well, Canadians always, beat you.
Yeah,
and he's
better.
like, yeah, but he goes, every time I meet a Canadian, he's like, "Oh, I could have played. I could." And I was like, it's a very bad Canadian accent. But he's like, "Oh, I could have played in the A, just my shoulder, hurt my shoulder, could have been there." And I go, "Well, I'm not going to do that to you." But he's very anti-Canadian. He's a great guy. Some people think we look alike.
Yes, that is always, it's Chris Chelios. It's wild because you, like, even looking at you in a hockey jersey right now, I'm like, that's Chelios in a Canada jersey.
So let me tell the Chelios story first, and then wherever you want to go with this. But I'm literally in an airport. I had a Team Canada hat on, which is funny because Chelios hates Canada. Team Canada, black T-shirt, shorts. I'm reading a Tiger Woods biography. This was a year and a little bit ago. And I have my head down. I'm in the Detroit airport, and a guy walks up, and all I hear is, "Excuse me, Mr. Chelios, can I get a picture?" And I look up, and I see this guy, middle-aged, him and his buddies smiling. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I get up, the guy takes a picture. I was like, "Oh, you guys," because I think Chelios, Blackhawks. I go, "Oh, you guys big Blackhawks fans?" I go, or Red Wings, right? Because we're in Detroit. He's like, "Oh, huge Red Wings fans." I'm like, "Yeah." And as I'm talking, and as you know, I talk way too fast. Chelios talks very slowly and very deliberately. So in my head, I'm like, it's going to blow it that I'm not Chelios because I'm talking too fast. So I start slowing down my speech. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, so how you guys doing?" And I almost sound like I'm Chelios doing a Canadian.
Yeah, you
it's really weird now. I'm like, "How you guys good? Yeah." Big Red Wings fans? Like, "Yeah." Like, "Where are you guys going?" And I was going back to Hartford, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to Nashville." I'm like, "Oh, thank God we're not in the same flight," because they'd figure out eventually that I'm not Chelios. And he goes, "Yeah." And then the guy, and I said, "Well, nice meeting you guys. Thanks for being fans." And the one guy says, he goes, "This is going up on the mantelpiece for sure."
Oh, man.
And as I said to Mike Golick, I go, imagine the first time somebody walks into this house and goes, "Why is there a picture of Adnan Virk?"
I can't believe you committed to that well. I'd be nervous. I'd say, I'd kind of give up my.
My big thing I was upset about was that I wanted a picture of him. Like, I wanted to be able to tell people, like, "Hey, that guy thinks I'm Chelios." So afterwards, I was like, how could I have done that? But like, I'm wanting to give my email it to my partner, Adnan.
Yeah. You now start a whole new email account, Chris Chelios.
Right, Chris Chelios, Gmail, whatever, sent it to me. But yeah, been confused for Chelios. And even Chelios, when we were working together, he did kind of give me that, I love this expression, hairy eyeball, which Steve Ludsvik once said to me. He said, "Can I give me the hairy eyeball?" He goes, "We do kind of look alike."
Yeah.
And even somebody had told Levy, you should toss back to the studio and say, "And now time for more of the intermission report. Brett Hull, Adnan Virk, and Adnan Virk."
Yeah.
No, that's not good. You got to say Chelios twice. That's funnier. But anyways.
Yeah, and you're both different ethnicities too.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Ironically,
well, that's what he said. He goes, "I like the fact you're dark." He goes, "Because being Greek and dark, goes, I would always get made fun of. So I like the fact we're similar in skin tones." So I'm like, well, anything I can do to help Chelly.
He is quite the character. I worked with him at the Sochi Olympics, and I had a Canada phone cover. And when he first met me, he was like, "Take that off," because he hates Canada so much.
Yeah.
But before we're gonna get into a little more Canada talk, of course, we are drinking today. What are we drinking? I know you asked for Allen's apple juice.
Very Canadian.
Yes.
My buddy Cabby, who you know, Cabby and I remember at Ryerson, I said this to my friend Hussein. I remember this. We were literally in some class at Ryerson, RTA, and literally Cabby walks in, he had a giant Allen's apple juice, just sticks a straw. I'll never forget, just sipping a juice. I'm like, that thing is like over a liter. That's like it says on the side, 1.09 liters, just crushing apple juice. And I remember as a kid, Julie, thinking, "Oh, well, juice is healthy for you." Like, "Oh, juice is fun." Like, I don't drink soda, I just drink juice. And then when you grow up and you actually see the sugar content, you go, "Oh my God." So now I try to refrain from soda and juice. But when you want a treat, here we are.
We got a little treat here today.
Drinks with Binks.
Our PA Danielle was looking for Allen's apple juice. Realized it's Canadian.
I don't think you can get it in America.
So one thing that's cool cool that Canada has.
I think this is Minute Maid Berry Punch. Is this what this is?
I think
the red
so.
juice.
So let's cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Berry Punch is still great.
Tastes
this is great. I mean,
tastes like classic juice from a grocery store.
This is good
All right,
juice.
and where would you like to drink anywhere in the world today?
Well, so I grew up in Kingston, but I remember I had to go to the Wolf Island Ferry, which again, Wolf Island, WOLFE. And one of my dear friends, Teresa, got married a couple years ago. So she actually got married like on that island.
Oh, great.
The Thousand Islands is a big tourism attraction in the Kingston area. So, yeah, Wolf Island Ferry. I just remember it as a kid. You know, I'm like, hey, Dad, can we go on the ferry? Me and my brother would go on a ferry. We'd love it. I take my kids on ferries. Oh, my God, there it is.
Right
Yeah.
there, yeah.
I just think a ferry is such a
little
great
cold.
concept. Like, it's so, I'm going to go on a massive boat. And there's hundreds of people, and it's beautiful, and like I love the water. Like there's
downtown Kingston,
yeah,
Ontario.
downtown Kingston's beautiful, like birthplace of hockey. It's the first capital of Canada.
Yes.
Like there's a lot to love about the Limestone City.
You know, and I thought it's funny that you picked this because I'm actually going to be drinking there this weekend at my 10-year reunion of Queens.
Oh, really?
I went there.
I didn't know you went to Queens. That's great.
Yeah, I love Kingston.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a beautiful, cute little city. Cute. It's very historic. And
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think people realize as Americans, like, this is the birthplace of Sir John A. Macdonald, who was our first prime minister. Like, imagine if you went to...
Look at this. We're getting some Canadian history.
God, yeah, like-
Sir John A. Macdonald.
I mentioned birthplace of hockey. That's disputed by some, but people say Kingston may have been the
No,
first.
it was.
to say.
I actually played in a game. It was, I think, in like the 1800s, but we went back and recreated it when I went to Queens. Information that we're getting real inside Canada right now.
Queens is a great school. My brother went to Queens. A question I often get asked, I'm not sure if you do by Americans, is what are the Ivy Leagues of Canada?
Right.
And I quickly say Queens is up there. I think McGill.
Yeah.
Simon Fraser, maybe UBC.
I wouldn't have said that.
Okay. I definitely.
You know, if you do go to the College Football Hall of Fame, like I've been there before, and they say, "Oh, you have to pick your school." I'm like, "Yeah, I went to a Canadian school. It's not here." They're like, "Oh, we have a Canadian school, Simon Fraser." And I'm like, "They're not part of the NCAA." Like, what?
How did Simon Fraser?
Yeah, I have
this
no
makes
idea.
no sense. But I think Queens, McGill, maybe a Laurier. I actually met a guy. There's a guy on my son Yusuf's soccer team, Alex. And the other day, Yusuf, because you're going to be so excited, Alex's parents are Canadian. I go, what? So I couldn't wait at the practice. I ran over to them. I go, I understand we're Canadian? Like, this is great. And the mom is from Quebec City, which I said I think Quebec City is fabulous.
Beautiful.
I took my wife there last year. She was not big on Montreal. I raved about Montreal, and she goes, it's kind of dirty, like kind of scummy. And I go, well, it depends on the area, but it is a little grungy. Quebec City, though, my wife loved because it's all the cobblestone streets. Old Quebec is gorgeous. And the guy, Tom, is from, he's somewhere in Eastern Ontario, but he went to Waterloo.
Okay.
So I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I got so excited to hear Waterloo.
You do get, and for all the Americans watching, you get very excited when you find Canadians here. Like, I have lots of Canadian friends in New York. It's like, you just kind of understand each other's background in a way. Like, you know the hip, you know your ketchup chips.
Yeah.
You just know stuff that, you know, you as Americans, like, know and can vibe about, but we don't get. So we're going to talk a little bit more Canada, but we got to take our first time out on the program. We'll be back with more Adnan Virk on Drinks with Binks. Welcome on back. I'm JSB. This is Drinks with Binks. We've got Adnan Virk from DAZN and a million other jobs that we're going to get into over the course of this show. And we were talking about Canada before the break. And in the commercial break, we were discussing the idea of moving from Canada to the U.S. What was sort of your initial first idea to say, I want to take my career to the States?
You know, it's interesting. I think I had that inferiority complex that all Canadians have, which is that you haven't really made it unless you made it in the States. And my boss at the time, the scorer, Anthony Ciccione, had said to me, listen, I think you're good enough to go to the States, which is a horrible thing to say, implying that everybody else in Canada is not that good. That's why they stayed in Canada. But the way he put it was like, hey, you're good enough to go there. He was like, honestly, it's more money. There's more opportunities. There's more jobs. He's like, I think you'd be good for it. And at the time, I was young enough. I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. He goes, do it now. Once you get married and have kids, you know, you're going to be Sid Sixera living in Mississauga. And you're like, I'm never leaving. So
yeah, you don't want that guy.
No, I don't want Sid Sixera's life. So he's like, do it then. And I was lucky enough. Dave Rutherford was the news director. He was very helpful. Think how odd this is, Julie. The guy who's running the network and the head of programming are telling me, hey, leave. You should get out of here. I'm like, okay. But to me, it was a very generous thought that they were saying, we think you're good. Go spread your wings and do better.
It's easy to say that. It's more difficult to make it actually happen.
No question. So Dave Rutherford says to me, okay, I go, how do I do it? He goes, we need an agent. Okay. Robert Smith, who coincidentally ended up working with at ESPN. It was hilarious when I worked with Robert. But he goes, his agent, we do work with Robert. He's on the score. I'll give you his agent's number. Give my tape. I go, how do you do a tape? I don't know how to do a tape. Do people even do tapes now? There's no such thing as a tape. Okay, take your best material, right? You do a 20-second stand-up, 20-second highlight read, couple interviews, you package it together. Now you would email it. Okay, send it to him. Get the letter back. Hey, like your stuff, but does not the right fit for me. Okay, but here's another company might be good. Send my tape to them. No, it doesn't work out. Again, same thing. Like your stuff, not good for us. Try this guy. The third guy is Mark Turner at Abrams Artists, who literally just emails back, hey, I like your stuff. Like, let's do it.
Oh, great.
And I'm like, is this how this works? Like, should I come to New York? Should we meet? He's like, yeah, I want to come to New York. We'll meet. I drove down with some buddies, and I said, let's go make a weekend of it. I think we went, so whatever. We go. I think it was in the winters. We saw a Knicks game or something. Went and met him. How strange is this? 20 minutes. And I was like, do I sign anything? He's like, nope. I'm like, so how does this work? He's like, I'm going to try to get you a job in the States, and when I get it, I get 10% gross, not net. And that's it. I don't pay you anything up front? Nope. I don't sign anything? Nope. I'm like, okay. And then you just sit and wait for a job, and months go by, and nothing's ever going to happen. And I remember MLB Network, coincidentally, one of my employers now, I remember early on, because it started, I want to say, 2008. I remember he sent my tape to them, and they're like, yeah, I like it, not the right fit for us, et cetera. I'm sure you know this, too, this story of, hey, I like it, just not the right fit for us. You don't really know what that means. But then eventually, ESPN, Laurie Orlando, said, I like his stuff. I don't have a job for him, but if he'd like to meet, I'd love to meet him. And I'm like, I'm hopping on that. And so that was October of 2008. I was doing a morning show with The Score, and it was Canadian Thanksgiving, which just passed, which is Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. The real Thanksgiving.
American Thanksgiving. Yeah.
And they said, can you come down? And they gave a bunch of dates, and other days were like, it was a Monday to Friday morning show I was doing, so I'd have to miss work. But one of them was the Monday, and I said, great, I'll do it then. I remember the people at The Score, they're like, can I get off that day? And I didn't say why. I'm not the type to call in sick. I know you're hardworking like me. We're Canadians. I missed like 2 sick days in 6 years. I just said politely, hey, can I get the day off? We're just auditioning. We're doing rehearsals for this new show. Can I get the day off? Why?
Oh.
I can't say why. All right. So then I had to use an excuse. This is horrible. You should never lie. I had to lie. I said I threw my back out. I went with my wife and our little baby at the time. Yusuf was maybe 6 months old. Drive down to Connecticut. 9-hour drive. I met with Laurie Orlando, half an hour meeting. She's so nice. She said, you could do a great job. I just want to meet you, get to know you a little bit. Met with a guy named Dave Roberts, who's now running First Take. He's one of the bosses there. Does not remember meeting me. Remember, he got me a hot chocolate. He was very nice. Drove all the way back. Next day, went and did this morning show at The Score. I remember one of the floor directors, when I walked in, goes, oh, there's Adnan walking gingerly. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, that's right. I was supposed to have a bad back. I'm like, oh, yeah, my back's still killing me.
Oh, no.
So literally, I had to call and say, but that audition was huge. Not even an audition, sorry. An interview was great because Laurie was so nice. I go back afterwards, and my agent, Mark Turner at the time, says, this is a direct quote from Laurie. She goes, if I had an opening, I'd hire him tomorrow.
Wow.
This is October 2008. I go,
I'm going
to be working at ESPN. Like, this is great. I'm like, all right, let's start packing up our stuff. And then nothing happens. And then 3 months pass. You send an email. How you doing? Good. Another few months. Yeah. David Amber, my good buddy who I worked with at TSN, works at ESPN. Can you find out what's happening? He's like, well, they just hired 2 other people. Some schmo named Max Bredos, Steve Weissman. I'm like, oh, those guys.
Who are those guys?
Who, ironically, I would get to be good friends with. I know you know them both.
Yeah.
Max has been on.
I lived with Steve for 2 years.
You lived with Steve, which is tremendous. I remember when he was like, yeah, I'm living with Julie Stewart-Binks. I'm like, what?
It's so strange. Right?
I was like, that's tremendous.
Like a TV show.
Yeah. He's like, I never see her, though, because I think Weissman was working nights, or you were working nights, or what worked?
Yeah, I traveled for like 20 days at a time. Yeah, so.
But anyways, long story short, I ended up following up. The advice for people out there is always follow up. Just because you meet once a month, just wanted to check in, how are things going? And the last one I sent was New Year's Day 2010. So I interviewed October 2008. It's been 15 months. At this point, I'm now at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, Raptors TV, Leafs TV. I figure the dream is done. And I just literally wrote, Laurie, I just want to check and see how things are going. And she's like, hey, I have a job opening for you. Can you send me your latest stuff? Month and a half later, audition, interview, got the job, started in May. Incredible.
And when they've seen your stuff before and you kind of circle around again, they know a little bit about you. They already have like an initial opinion. That happened to me with CTV Regina. That's how I got my big break.
By the way, favorite city to say in Canada. People love the guy. I want Regina. I'm like, Regina.
Like I tell everyone here, it's funny when you're 5 in Canada when you find it out. But then here, it's like everyone just gets distracted when you say, I was like, yeah, I lived in Regina. Like, what? No.
Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw, yeah, spent a lot of time in all these places. But I found it fascinating because, like, we're in the States now. We have our careers here. You have family here. Yeah. Have you ever thought about going back for, like, permanently?
No, it's interesting. You know, I interviewed Norm Macdonald at ESPN. He's a great guy. He's so funny. And when he walked in, he was like, oh, I can't do Norm impression, but I'll try. I think he's going, here's your Canadian. I'm like, yeah. He's like, he's like, yeah. I go, yeah. I go, Canada's the best. He's like, no, it's not. I was like, what do you mean? If it's so great, why didn't you stay? And I'm like, doesn't your brother work for like the National, which I think is still the best news program out there? And he's like, yeah, my brother does some writing now. He used to do some on-air stuff. But he's like, yeah. He goes, yeah, it sucks. And he goes, listen, everyone says, all of us come here and we brag about Canada and Canada's the best and maple syrup, blah, blah. Meantime, if you liked it so much, why didn't you stay in Canada? Like, if it's so good, why don't you just stay there? And I was like, he goes, because there's more jobs, there's more opportunities, there's more money. Like, New York City is my second favorite city behind my hometown of Toronto.
Right.
And now I live 35 minutes from New York City. And, I get to do baseball and boxing and a little bit of hockey. And I get to do an NFL podcast with Michael Lombardi. Like, those opportunities you wouldn't get. The biggest thing I found with Canada in the sports market is it's like, to put it in TV terms, hockey is the A's and the B's. And then the C's, meaning at the 20 minutes past the hour, hey, a little bit of NFL. Oh, by the way, Jalen Ramsey got traded.
CFL,
yeah. A little bit of CFL. Yeah, God, a lot of CFL, which I'm not crazy about. You get a little bit of baseball. By the way, the Jays offered a non-tender contract to some BS pitcher. And then we'll come back and reset hockey. And then you do like the short version of the Flames highlight, the Oilers highlight, the Jays. You go, oh, my God. It's like we love hockey.
Don't forget the Scotties and the Briar.
Oh,
that's curling.
Oh, yeah. So that's the biggest thing. I think when it comes down to is content. Like, after I got let go by ESPN, my brother goes, well, what do you think about going back home? Mom and dad are their family. And I said, yeah, but it comes down to content. Like, Canada's awesome. And Toronto's awesome. My parents are great. My cousins, I love the city. But there's a few changes I've noticed since we've left. And when did you leave Canada?
2013.
Yeah, so I left 2010. Since I've been gone, the real estate is incredibly, exorbitantly expensive now. You can't buy a place in Toronto. And I say this living in North Jersey with property taxes, which are insanely expensive. So it's a lot more expensive. The traffic, which was always bad,
awful,
has become exponentially worse. When I go back to DVP, nightmare, 401, forget about it. If you think the 17 is bad, GW Bridge, not even close. And to the point of the content. So nobody ever leaves Canada. I go back home, it's all the same anchors, the same reporters. Nobody goes anywhere. Everyone's getting their 4% raise. They're happy with it. They go to their cottage in Muskoka, and that's it. And so there's no openings. Like, it's so easy, Julie, and you know this. When you're unemployed, you're looking for a job, Bill go, oh, why don't you just go do this? Or, oh, Fox will hire you tomorrow. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. You have to have, A, need and interest, and B, an opening. I remember Mike McQuaid told me this years ago at ESPN. I was like, listen, man, I just want to do baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport. I want to do baseball tonight. He's like, well, it's like a hotel. I don't have a vacancy. I've had Carl Ravitch here for 25 years. He's going to die in that chair. And I've had Steve Berthume, who left here once before and then came back. So he's never leaving again. He went to S1E6, didn't like it. He's back. So I have 2 jobs, and they're both filled with veteran anchors. Yeah. So what are you going to do? And I'm like, yeah, damn, it's a good point. So as much as I love Canada, I just don't know where the jobs are. And content-wise, it's hockey. It's better in the States. You and I can watch hockey as fans. You were tweeting about the Leafs home opener, like you're fired up. It's great. You can watch it here from a distance, enjoy it. There, it's like 90% hockey, and all the other sports are jammed in. In America, it's like NFL's like 50, and all the other sports are in there.
Yeah, and then you got NBA, and as you mentioned, baseball as well. Right. We're going to break. Bye. We'll see you in a second. All right, we're back here on Drinks with Binks. I'm JSB. We've got Adnan Virk, sports broadcaster, Canadian. We've talked a lot about
we've lost
God's country. Yes, no, we're big in Canada too. I know my mom's watching this right now.
Yeah, Mom got a big shout out first show.
Yes,
I like what you did with Mom being involved. I think when Letterman would bring his mom on.
Yeah, we were just like. She also wants to be on the show. She tweets in the third person from her account, like, your mom would make a great co-host.
She's like Brian Colangelo. She's a burner account.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But right now, let's fast forward a bit. You're at DAZN, and you've been there for a couple months right now. What, now that you've been there for a bit, what surprised you about this job?
I think it's interesting how when you're starting something fresh, just all that goes into it. I think when you're at ESPN for a while, and you would know this having been at ESPN, having been at Fox, there's such a massive infrastructure there. Like everything's been built together for so many years. There's bricks and mortar, and now it's just a matter of building and building, and just keep the train on the tracks. Don't screw it up. Just talk football, talk college football, talk NFL, whatever it is, you can't clear. When you go to a new place, whether it's Fubo or DAZN, you're trying to build, you're trying to attract interest, attention, etc. So we're incredibly fortunate that we change up our baseball show that's a co-production with MLB Network.
Right.
I think if it was, we're starting in the street somewhere, it's going to be hard. But it's like, hey, you've got this infrastructure, again, these gorgeous studios, great producers, researchers, graphics, directors, etc. They're all MLB Network people. So I think because we had that helped kind of help the production, give it some credibility and give it some juice out of the gate. And then because we're there in Secaucus at the studio, we can get all their people. So Harold Reynolds, Dan Plesac, great Blue Jay, Al Leiter, former Blue Jay. Like there's a lot of great people that can kind of come on the show. Tom Verducci. Like I'm watching the NLCS, ALCS, and I go, hey, these are all people I know. Tom Verducci, Ken Rosenthal, Lauren Shahadi. Like these are all stars who have been on DAZN or are part of the MLB framework. So that's been a
Well,
huge
I know
help.
Kevin Burkhardt and Frank Thomas. So,
Listen, Burkhardt, awesome. Burkhardt's story is amazing, by the way.
It is.
Chris Cotter told me, he goes, do you understand? That guy was like a car salesman.
I know.
He's the Mets sideline guy.
It's a good car salesman voice, too, right? Like,
Yeah.
he has got great pipes.
He goes, now he's like an Emmy nominee. He's the number 2 NFL Fox play-by-play guy, and he's the host of baseball coverage.
And just like one of the best people ever.
I hear he's a
too.
great guy.
Yes.
I hear he's a great guy.
Yeah, you guys have to meet. That's so strange.
I know we've texted before. I've never actually formally met him, but I hear he's a great guy.
You mentioned
Onright called him the Duffy of America, or maybe he called...
that sounds all right.
Or maybe called
Onright from TSN.
Yeah.
You mentioned credibility, though, right out of the gate with DAZN. And you would have to say, though, that having former president of ESPN, John Skipper, be, everything behind it would already give it that in a way.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you tell somebody, if you just did my life story, my arc, okay, there's this guy, Adnan Virk, was at ESPN 9 years. What's he doing now? Oh, he's at DAZN. What's that? Oh, well, the former president of ESPN's running it. You go, oh, okay. So that has a decent chance of succeeding.
Yeah.
And I think that because of Skipper's track record and his resume, that he immediately inspires confidence. And I don't know, have you spent much time with John?
I met him briefly.
He's a phenomenal guy to talk to. Like, if you got him on this show, he's a great raconteur, as one might say.
That's what we do. Everyone who comes on the show has to then bring someone else. Like, pay it forward. So you'll bring John Skipper here. Great.
I mean, funny guy, disarming Southern accent. I mean, interested in everything like literature, travel, leisure. I mean, he's a phenomenal guy to talk to. So I think with John's track record, you go look at all the deals he got done at ESPN. Clearly, he can try to get that done for DAZN. He's already massively, cornered the market on boxing. We got Triple G, we got Canelo, we got Joshua. And that's just a matter of kind of finding other spots, because he has a relationship with all these people.
Right.
It would make sense you can get the deals done. He literally got this baseball deal done. I think he just saw Rob Manfred in the hallway. Like, hey, Rob, I got to do something with DAZN. Okay, what do we do? How about a whip around show? Yeah, I'll give you 3 years, whatever. Okay, let's do it.
That's great.
So he can call Roger Goodell and say, hey, listen, we need some NFL content. DAZN is the NFL provider in Canada and Germany. Want to do something in America, and he can get it done. And then also the fact Jamie Horowitz is involved. Again, he's a guy he created First Take, Sports Nation, oversaw Oberman, which is a show I love doing. Our man JB Critt's, big part of that. So I think with that track record, I feel pretty confident because at the very least, they've had huge success elsewhere. Hopefully that can continue.
Right. So you're a startup, but you're kind of like one of these kids that got put into private school really early on because you have all this help. We're not. We're still, we got held back a grade, okay? We're a startup as well. We don't have the resources like you do, but so I understand kind of just, we have everyone here was painting our set that we have and really trying to get things off the ground. But
aren't you guys further along than you're making it sound? You're being very Canadian by being self-deprecating.
Of course, that's what we do.
But I feel like Fubo is still further along than you're saying.
Glad you said Fubo, not Fubu, because we're still fighting that battle every single day. No, we are.
Some people think it's DAZN half the time.
Yes,
I pronounce it properly.
DAZN or DAZN, which we enjoy.
DAZN, I love a good DAZN.
Yes, yeah. But but we're part of these newer enterprises. You've been part of traditional media for so long. I was a part of traditional media. When you look at, you mentioned just what John Skipper's been able to do and Jamie Horowitz. You knew them both at ESPN. Now you know them from DAZN. Both of them have gone through tumultuous situations. In what way do you feel, what role do you think that has played in their lives and to where they are now?
That's interesting. It's a good question. I think in the case of Jamie specifically, because after I got let go by ESPN, he reached out right away. I got fired on a Friday. It was February 1st, and then I'm living with that and dealing with that with my wife and kids for a couple days, and no one knows. except for my agents and obviously the people who fired me at ESPN. And then Sunday, Andrew Marchand writes a story for the New York Post. Now, everyone knows Super Bowl is ruined. By the way, as an Eagles fan, JB will appreciate this. I did not get to watch the Super Bowl, and apparently it was a terrible Super Bowl, so the Eagles should still be Super Bowl champions as far as I'm concerned. But literally, the story comes out an hour before, so my phone, I'm just getting blown up, or, oh my God, what happened? So I have to deal with damage control. And I just called my parents. I finally got enough gumption to tell them what happened. And then all of a sudden, bam, my wife ran upstairs and goes, it's online. I'm like, oh, Marchand, okay, here we go. So Jamie emails that night, and he got my email from one of my agents, and it just said literally, hey, man, like, just saw the news, hang in there. There's always a way back. And clearly there's a guy who knows how tough life can be if you're publicly dismissed and what that could mean. And then we kept in touch after that. I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, again, you know what it's like when you're between jobs. You have no idea when the next job is. It's very easy for people on the outside to go, oh, if Julie's super talented, she'll get a job tomorrow. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. And you have to be lucky enough. And I was incredibly lucky that Jamie and John were there for me and had an opening. Like, it was literally like, hey, I remember JB, again, our fearless producer here, who was like, even before anything happened to you, I'm like, this is actually a perfect job for you. Like, you love baseball. Baseball Tonight used to be 13 shows a week. It's now once a week, which is Carl Ravage's Never Leaving. And now all of a sudden you can do a baseball show 5 nights a week, live whip around. It's with MLB Network. You can do stuff there too. You can move out of Connecticut, move to New York. All the passes were there. But in answer to your point, I think with Jamie and John specifically, because they'd been through adversity on a public level, I think that they were definitely sympathetic to me, knowing that, you know, there's two sides to every story. And certainly they knew my work. I mean, I think that you can be sympathetic to anybody, but they specifically were like, listen, we know Adnan. We know he does a good job. We know he's a good guy. Whatever happened, like, we'll deal with it. We'll talk about it. But after that, fresh start. You know, they got a fresh start. So they were really nice to offer me one, too.
Yeah, just their perspective on the whole situation, having gone through something very difficult for themselves, would probably make them a bit more empathetic
I would think.
to what you were doing. Now, we want to talk a lot more about DAZN, ESPN, and everything Adnan Virk, but we got to take a time out. We'll be back with more Drinks with Binks. Hey guys, welcome on back to Drinks with Binks. We are drinking a mixed berry concoction, no booze, with Adnan Virk from DAZN. It's a really nice change because we are shooting this on a Thursday morning. We're not trying to trick anybody. So it's nice not to be drinking at 10 a.m.
Grant Wall was drinking, is that correct?
Yes, so we're sitting, the Grant Wall is drinking. Everyone, I think, feels the need to sort of want to say they will have a drink. But we're like,
Dan Patrick drank water, right? Okay, follow the model.
I was surprised because, I don't know, I've shared some tequilas with him before, and he acted like he was drunk, but that's probably good we didn't have any booze. Now, speaking of a place who would not want anyone from their company to be drinking, ESPN.
Oh, yeah.
You spent so many years there. You were kind of like, and you still are, just such a poster child for everyone in Canada. Like, look, you can make this dream happen, and, you know, look at what Adnan's done. And you just mentioned it before the break, but just sort of when everything changed, when you were fired, when you look back on that moment now, what are the feelings associated with everything?
Well, it's interesting. I'll draw to a hockey allusion, which you'll appreciate. I remember Peter Berg did that great 30 for 30 with Gretzky. It's called Gretzky's Tears. And he says to him, do you ever think about when you got traded from the Oilers, like how many more cups you could have won? And Gretzky, without hesitation, said every day. And did not exaggerate, did not go into detail, just every day. And I can tell you, a day does not go by, I don't think, for the fact I got fired by ESPN. I'll be driving somewhere and something pops up in my head or some moment of that experience, like, it's still surreal. And I don't know when it's going to stop being that. And I don't know if it'll be that. Because I think every moment that happens, if someone were to say to you, to your point, humble beginnings, born in Toronto, but grew up in Kingston, small town. From ages 11 to 18, I lived in Morven, Ontario, Prince Edward County, 500 people. Like, this is a miracle, Julie, that I worked at ESPN. You know enough about Canadian landscape. I'd work with these anchors, Brett Osses and Weissmans. I look at their resumes. Are you kidding? Like, Max worked at Fox. I'm like, that's a huge deal. Like, I worked at some place called The Score. No one's heard of it. No one knows what it is. We were like the ugly stepchild at the table. Like, there's TSN, there's Sportsnet, then there was The Score. And even at The Score, well, I'm well behind McAuliffe and Sixero and Coolius and Cabby and Martine Guyard. I'm like, so the fact that I even got the job at ESPN, like, that's one of the greatest days of my life, is when I got that phone call. I went and saw a movie called The Messenger. I remember my agent called me, and I went outside. He's like, yep, you got the job. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, it's still surreal to me that I ever worked at ESPN. So to have that kind of a high, and my wife being American, so she was thrilled to go to America. And 3 of our boys were born in Connecticut. I have 4 boys. 3 of them were born in Connecticut, same hospital. For all of that to happen, all the memories you build, for that to be extinguished, not only, the nice way to say, there's people who get laid off. No, I was fired, which is much more personal, which is much more vindictive, and it was publicly revealed to everybody, and it was like one of the top trending topics on Yahoo, and like I got cousins who are reading this, like, what happened? What'd you do? My parents, the stress that it put them through, my wife, obviously. It's in many ways, it's a spectacular experience because there was so much involved, but it was certainly traumatic. And it was very, very hard to go through.
And I was reading, you talked about going through therapy, kind of turning to prayer in certain moments. Yeah. When you look, what are you mentioned you think about it every single day now. Oh. What kind of feelings are associated with it now?
Well, it's interesting. It's a lot like, so somebody asked me the other day, what do you think of ESPN? And I said, it's complicated. And I said, what do you mean? I go, it just depends. Like, it's complicated. And the best example, one of my agents has said, it's like a relationship. Mm-hmm. He goes, you're with somebody, you think you're going to get married, everything's going to work out well, and all of a sudden, boom, she breaks your heart, she dumps you. And you go, hang on a second, like, we had an argument, like, I get it, maybe I was wrong about this, I should have reacted better. Your cat was, kitty litter everywhere, I was a little bit annoyed, okay, fine, but can we work through this? No, get out, get your stuff and get out of the house. And oh, by the way, I'm going to put this on Facebook and slam you, so publicly everyone's going to know that you're a jerk. And you go, hang on a second, I don't deserve this treatment. And so, you try to rationalize it, you talk to your friends, and then your friends go, oh, well, she's a bitch, and she was whatever, and you're better than her, blah. And you have to rationalize it to overcome the fact that you're brokenhearted. Like, it's sad, you're depressed about it. And then eventually you go to the next job, you go to the next girl, and all of a sudden you go, hey, you know what? She's better for me. She has this quality, she didn't have that. And so at first you're using negativity and hostility, which is screw her, screw that, to this is better. And eventually you get to a level of acceptance and you say, hey, listen, that relationship was great for me and did a lot for me, and I'm very grateful for all of that. But this relationship is better for me too because of what it's offering. So I think that's the best way to approach it. I don't understand, Julie. There's people definitely who do this, who say, you look at a past relationship and go, I'm going to prove her or him wrong. Right? Deitch had this in his tweet. He goes, give me a story about somebody in your life who doubted you professionally and you proved them wrong.
Right.
And I said, no, like I don't live that way. Like, I'm a very positive.
Well, that makes one of you.
Like I said,
I'm only doing this to spite everyone who said no.
I said, I get how that works. And like, it's like that movie, The Program, which is not a great football movie, but I do love the defensive tackle or linebacker. He's clearly based on Lawrence Taylor. Before every snap, he's like, what'd you say about my mama? You said this, you said that. And the guy's like, I didn't say anything. And it's like, you're using negative fuel as motivation. And that's just not the way I operate. I just think that's a really tough way to live. I think it's better to say, I'm at peace with everything. Everything happens for a reason. You mentioned prayer. Obviously, I believe in God. I believe that everything happens for a reason. It's much easier for me to say, I don't know why certain things happen. I just trust in a higher power, and as long as you rely on the key things in life, which is faith and family and friends, that's what will get you through. Jerry Madelon, a guy we know from ESPN, he once had a great quote, which was about frustration and aspiration. And he goes, if you're frustrated a lot, you have to lower your aspiration. If your aspiration is simply just to get out of bed every day, you'll never be frustrated. If your aspiration is to make $1 million and you're well shy of that, well, then you're always frustrated. So what I found is after I was fired at ESPN, and I will candidly admit that I certainly wish I could take a mulligan on a few things, one of which is just my mental approach. Anytime you work at a company for any amount of years, you get frustrated. How come that guy's making that much money? How did she get that assignment? That's BS, that's crap. And I think I did let that negativity affect me. And I think that it was never outwardly conveyed by anybody, but I think looking back now, I should have dealt with those emotions better, because what ends up happening is that when you get frustrated at a job, you get angry at a job, maybe you get careless, maybe you get annoyed, and all of a sudden when it's gone, it's whatever cliche everyone says, you don't appreciate it till it's gone. And so now when I go into work at DAZN, now when I work at MLB Network, now when I do the GM Shuffle, now when I do Cinephile, I count my blessings and I say, it's a gift to have this job. Whatever money you're making is great. I think money's a real root of all evil, Julie. I really think at times I'd say, I read headlines and go, how come that guy's making that much money? How is ESPN paying her that much money? You know how hard I work? I do college football, college basketball, baseball, radio. I never complain once. I'm nice to everybody. I treat the crew great. How is this? And once you get into that, Dan Lebitard said to me, he goes, when you start doing that, it's a one-way path to unhappiness. It's such a hard thing for us in broadcasting. It's a very competitive environment.
Well, yeah, you're always comparing yourself to the next person in line or someone newer, younger coming in. And also, the networks feed that to us as well, right? Because they put us against one another.
I remember Matt Devlin said that to me. He goes, ESPN's a very competitive environment. It is hyper-competitive. And you literally, I have a joke with Weissman and Deuces Rogers and all. Like we all got along great, but every month you're checking the schedule. How many sports centers you get? You got an E1 sports center. You got how'd you get that? Oh, he's brown nose and she did that. Like there was always that going on. It felt like high school.
Really toxic.
It is in very many ways a toxic environment. And again, it's only as toxic as you affect it to be. If you let it affect you, it will affect you. And I think at times I was looking at the situation going, oh my God, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, which is a stupid thing to say. You should just be content with what you're doing. And if you're just the number 2 face on college football, that's a good thing. At times I would let it affect me and go, well, I'm never going to be Reese Davis. I'm never going to be Carl Ravitch. Well, what's the point of this? Like, this is crap. How come I don't have my own radio show? I've been filling in for 6 years in ESPN radio. I do a good job. I work hard. How come this person got the show? And like when you do that, it's a very, very negative thing. So the lesson that I've learned from all this is if you're going to be that, which is fine if you want to do that, but just check yourself, make sure that you deal with those emotions properly. And if you're ever bored with the job, if you feel like, well, I'm not being challenged, well, go get a hobby. Like, maybe I should learn to play a musical instrument or find something else to do.
Well, I
think, sorry, to finish the point.
Yeah.
When you put so much pressure on the job, if things don't work out, then you're set up for failure. And so now, to bring it back full circle, faith, family, friends, I have my faith, I always have. My wife and kids, like, we're having a blast. Like, we prefer North Jersey to Connecticut. My kids, so frustration, aspiration. Are your kids happy and healthy? Yes. 11, 8, almost 3, almost 1. God bless. Every day I spend time with my kids. I change diapers. I'm coaching soccer. My one guy's taekwondo. So the family's the most important thing in your life. Yep, of course it is. So they're okay? Yeah. Your parents are alive? Yep. Happy and healthy? Yep. They're going to come visit next week? Great. They're going to bring some Macintosh toffee, coffee crisp. We're good to go. So faith and family are intact. Your friends are good? Yeah, of course. I have great friends. They support you? Yeah. Is the job good? You enjoying yourself? You're fulfilled? Yeah. So there's zero reason to complain. If you start letting the frustration aspiration thing go, how come more people aren't watching us? How come I'm not getting more tweets? How come my Instagram's this? You're set up for failure. And
I think also having been in a situation where you have lost what was your dream and being removed from it, I've been at networks that, didn't renew my contract and having the dream and then seeing it not be there anymore gives you that perspective.
Yeah.
Now being on the outside, I know we have to go to break in a bit, but being on the outside, how do you view ESPN? How different is it now?
Listen, I said this before. I have 4 boys. If any of my boys one day worked at ESPN, I would be thrilled. Like, they're the biggest, baddest monster on the block. They're a behemoth. And it is a great company to work for. Like, I miss the Disney benefits. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. 401k, people treat you well. Like, I think it's a really good company to work for. But I do think change is a good thing for everybody. And for me personally, it was not the way I would have wanted to go out. Obviously, I did not want to get fired publicly. But I do think the change has been beneficial. And I do feel like, and I really do mean this, after 9 years, I didn't have anything else left to prove. I literally had done every show in the building. I think, like I said, I treated people well. I worked hard. It wasn't like, I'm sure you and I have had situations where you go, if only I had done that. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like if only I had done NFL Countdown. That was not going to happen. It was Berman, then it was Ponder, going to be Wingo, whoever it is. Like, they weren't going like, hey, let's get Virk in there. So I don't feel like, if I had just done that NFL Live, things could have worked out. No. I got to do more than I dreamed of. I got to call games at Yankee Stadium for ESPN. Like, my friends like, that's crazy. Like, you never did baseball play-by-play in Canada, and you called the game at Yankee Stadium, Wrigley Field, Fenway Park with Tim Kirkjian and, like, all these guys that you respect and admire. I'm like, yeah, those are it's like ESPN was beyond my dreams, right? When Dave and Anthony told me you should go to the States, they didn't say you'll be a guy at ESPN. They just said, well, go to the States, get a job. I told one of my dear friends, Mike Kiss at Ryerson, like 3rd year, I said, you know what? My goal is I have to get a job that pays 6 figures and be in a top 10 market in America. And he goes, that's a hell of a goal. Like, you know how hard that is? Like, that's like a 0.01% chance of happening. I go, no, it's got to be New York, Philly, Chicago, LA, like top 10 market, making 6 figures. And then I'll never complain. And I went above that. I went to ESPN, which is a national network. And still in my own mind, I found things to get frustrated about and to complain about. And so.
Yeah, we always do. That's life with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't beat myself up about it too much because you're right. Everyone does that. But looking back now, I'm like, you know what? You should have not been so upset. Because to your point, when it's gone and you have nothing, you're an unemployed father of 4. And you're like, I have nothing right now.
Yeah, and I remember messaging you during that time. And you're like, just you think of us because you lost your salary. You have to support a family. You got to think of the next thing.
Right, and that's where, by the way, ego goes out the door. Before it was, hey, I want to be Carl Ravitch or I want to do. No, I don't. I'll just take the check.
Yeah,
I don't care what the job is. I'll do whatever.
Be able to feed our family. Right. All right, we got a whole lot more to get into with Adnan coming up after the break on Drinks with Binks. Hey Hey guys, we're back on Drinks with Binks. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks, of course, and we've got Adnan Virk. We've been discussing so much of your career, and I wanted to mention, I don't think you remember this moment, but I
always like mentioning that I forget the fact that
I interned at the Score, and I believe I was a Raptors shoot-around, and I think either you were with the Score, or you were doing stuff for NBA TV.
Yeah.
But you were there, and I so vividly remember. I think I was shadowing Randy Urban, I want to say.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Doing court surfing now.
Yes, yeah. So, but that was my first memory of meeting you, and we talk about how small Canada is, and like it's very incestuous.
Yeah.
And now we're here in America, and now we're big deals. You know, making the big USD.
But I feel horrible that I do not remember that moment because I remember once you were at ESPN.
I feel pretty bad about it too.
We met once at ESPN in the hallway.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's great to finally meet you. Like, well, actually, we met before. I'm like, what? Like,
that's also a jerk move by me being like, remember?
But it was okay. Because I was like, I should have remembered you. I feel bad. Do not take it personally.
Yeah, you should have. I mean, I was intern.
There's a guy, Ryan Pinder, who's a great guy. Calgary Radio. I do a weekly hit with them. And he was like, yeah. He keep putting a word for me because he was like, you were so nice to me when I interned at the Score. I'm like, I don't remember.
I can't. And you know what? Brad Pitt has this disease where you can't remember people.
But I'm normally really good with it.
And I think that, like, I have that too. Like, I think we might, me and Brad Pitt, we just like.
We're all kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah, we're on the same level.
I wanted to mention one other thing when you mentioned therapy, because this was my one issue with therapists. Here's why I was reluctant to go, and here's why I actually don't think it's okay. I'm reluctant to go because I feel like, how do you get out of it? Like, I've never understood that once you start seeing a therapist, like, when can you say, hey, I'm good? Because my feeling is not that it's a racket, but they're benefiting by your depression or frustration, whatever. So they're never actually going to go, you're cured, you don't have to come back again.
No. Yeah, you're right. You can't ever, they'll find another way.
Yeah.
I have a therapist, and like, if I can't, I try to push her off sometimes, like, it's not going to work this week. She's like, no, you need to come in. I'm like, I think I'm okay. It's actually more difficult for, like, it's more stress for me to try to come into this thing. But yeah, they definitely want to, they get you and then they bring you in. I mean, it's great. I think therapy is very helpful.
I think it can be very helpful and important to people, but I don't think it's good for everybody. I remember in Toronto going to a therapist, I was down and I would go, you know what? There was sometimes I'd feel pretty good. And I'd go in and have to find reasons to be lousy. Because they'd say, what's up? And I go, I'm doing really good. They go, really?
Yeah, you got to come in with content. So I usually make sure I come in with a couple of issues I've been brewing the last day, just so I can talk about it.
You got to think of you got to do a bit. Like I got to work on a bit tomorrow. I got to be a therapist.
It really is.
So I found with this time, I'm like, I went to the therapist. Guy, hey. 2 sessions, that's it.
Two sessions.
I got fired. I'm an unemployed father of 4. I'm kind of screwed up right now.
We're going to solve all these issues right now.
Let you get me once I get another job, I'm not talking to you again.
Yeah, this is all the time. And before I move into, I want to talk some baseball.
Yeah.
Speaking of the other job, you went to DAZN very quickly after ESPN. How much urgency did you feel? I need to get back out there.
I'm glad you mentioned it because that's an important part of it too. Fired on a Friday, Sunday publicly released. That week, you don't know anything. I'm talking to my agents, and they're going, you know what, just lay low for, I think they said 10 days. And I go, oh, my God. They go, just spend time with your family. Like 10 days, we don't know anything.
That's the most time I've seen them in years.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not used to this. So I literally know nothing. And you know this. Everybody is messaging going, hang in there. Anything I can do to help, which is a nice thing to say, but most people, there's nothing they can do. And then everyone's calling, trying, hey, what happened? What'd you do? What happened? And I couldn't get into that because I had hired lawyers and I had to try to get some money. I had some money left in my contract, and the lawyer's going, don't say anything to anybody. I don't care if it's your best friend. Brett Oss is calling you, just go, hey, man, it's nice to talk. I can't get into it. What'd you do? I can't get into it. Martian said, I can't discuss it. I literally can't say a word. You trust your parents, and that's about it. And so I had dual issues, one of which I'm trying to find a job. 2, I have lawyers who I'm talking to every day, and they're going, all right, we have a potential lawsuit against ESPN if we do A, B, and C. I'm talking to agents who are going, hey, just do anything for a week and a half, but we're going to start to call this company, and would you be interested in this, and are you open to moving here? So I think that was part of it, too, was you would think, oh, you got fired, you can kind of take a little minute. It was incredibly stressful trying to balance all that stuff, particularly the lawyer stuff. Like I look back now, it'll be great for the book, but I think the story that's been publicly told is Adnan got fired, quickly bounced back at DAZN, but I had a real situation of like, hey, I don't have any money. Should I file a lawsuit against ESPN? And I had 2 excellent lawyers who were kind of like, listen, you got a pretty good case here when we're looking at this, and this. And then I had people saying, yeah, but like, if you think of how pernicious that is, you filed a lawsuit against ESPN, like that's serious. That means like, hey, you're going down guns blazing. Yeah. And then that will affect your potential employment elsewhere.
Right.
So to your point, it was almost like something to have in the hip pocket to go, listen, I got to pay the mortgage somehow. So if need be,
Got to get something.
But in the meantime, hopefully we get a job. So fired Friday, Sunday released. By the next Friday, so 1 week, my agents called, go, hey, there might be something happening at DAZN.
Okay.
So within a week, at least I knew something
That's
could
very
be happening.
quick. I had about 8 months off before I had a job, which is why I turned to stand-up comedy. And
But you were doing great with the stand, still doing so.
Yeah, we're trying to get back out there. But before we go to break,
sorry, just to finish about being quick. So I would say the next 2 weeks was still kind of figuring stuff out. I met with Horowitz on the 28th. So I would say that first month was probably the worst month of my life, February 1 to February 28th. When I met with Jamie, he was like, I got a job for you. You don't have to audition, job's yours.
Oh, yeah. They would have been super jazzed that you were available.
Yeah.
And just before we go to break, the nature of how you were fired was by giving information to an outside source.
Yeah.
Now, how do you approach that with loose lips?
Yeah,
you know?
Well, I get terrified of anything because you're right. Because, again, when you have to look at the lesson, because if someone says you got fired, I go, well, what happened? Okay, well, I told someone I shouldn't have said something. Okay, so what's the lesson? Well, just don't say anything to anybody. When somebody says to you, hey, between us, it better be between us. When someone says to you off the record, it better be off the record. And that means you and I are having a conversation. That means my wife says something to me.
Off the record, by the way.
None of this is being aired. It's just because I am a big believer in that you has to be a bigger lesson. I watched the movie Doubt, which I love, with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Meryl Streep. It's a great play. But there's a great scene in there where Philip Seymour Hoffman's giving a speech. And he talks about this woman, and she says, I just told somebody one thing, and then it started to go to everybody, and now it's blown up. And he goes, when you go home today, get a pillow, rip open the pillow, and go to the top and just throw out all the feathers, and then try to clean them up. And she goes, I went home, I took the pillow, I ripped it up, and I went back, and I tried to get more feathers, but I don't think I got them all. I don't think I get them. And he goes, that's gossip. That's the danger of gossip. That's loose lips causing damage. That's when something gets said. So even if your intention, which is obviously the case, was not to hurt anybody, not to harm anybody. People always say that, right? It's always about intent. Well, my intent was not to harm anybody. Yeah, but sometimes when information gets disseminated and it blows up in your face, something that can seem to be a minor issue becomes a major one.
Right.
So now to your point, when someone says to me, hey, what are you hearing about DAZN NFL? I go, who's asking? Why are you asking? I call Horowitz first.
Go from my burner account first.
Yeah. I call Horowitz. I call my agent. What can I say about this? Is this okay?
Yeah,
when Deitch wants me on the podcast,
yes.
I have to be super careful with everything.
Super careful about coming on here too.
Yeah, I check first. Right. JB tag, hey, check with DAZN, check with Horowitz.
Yeah, no. And we're all friends. Fubo and DAZN, we're like brother and sister.
Right.
All right, we've got more lessons from Adnan coming up after this on Drinks with Binks. All right, we are back, and we don't have a whole lot of time. Adnan, movies, go.
No, I'm not going to do that. I told you I was going to do that, but 45 seconds, I want to talk about you. You're doing
No, you're not hijacking this interview. Tell us what you're...
No, you're doing a fantastic job.
You have 25 seconds to tell me about movies.
Somebody can work at ESPN and at Fox and worked at Barstool.
Yeah, this means I can't hold a job, I think.
Congrats to you. And Lee Fitting, who loved you at ESPN. Jesse Palmer one time said a great compliment about you. Because you know what I said about JSB?
You only have 9 seconds.
He goes, no drama. I go, it's a very Canadian thing.
He really doesn't know me that
well. No drama.
All right, we're going to be back after this on Drinks with Binks. All right, before we say goodbye to Adnan Virk, who's going to win the World Series in 1 word or less?
I got the Astros winning.
Ooh, yikes. That's tough in a New York town.
I hope it's the Yankees. Right. I love Aaron Boone.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tons more on social. Follow him everywhere. He has 100 jobs and 100 children. We'll see you next time. Drinks with Binks.